Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Taos of Baltimore. We are Baltimore Positive. We're taking the Maryland Crab Cake Tour on the road. 6 shows. I'm wearing a Coco shirt, and I'm not even doing the show with Coco's until February, but we're going to have Raven scratch offs to give away. Then we're going to have those candy canes that we've been promoting, all these holiday scented editions. So my bag's going to smell like peppermints by the time I get to Costas next Thursday for the rock and roll. And Gina Shock's all lubricated, and John Allen. We're going to do rock and roll. We're going to pay tribute to my heart transplant pal, Ed Lauer, next week. So we got all sorts of things, but we got football this week. As Earl Weaver always said, in Cincinnati. And I got to be honest, back at Thanksgiving, my wife somehow got entertained, and somehow a Wordle thing at dinner turned into us watching a whole episode of WKRP in Cincinnati and Dr. Johnny. I love Cincinnati, and Marvin came on last week to talk about the game before, and now we're here, and we haven't won any games, and the Bengals have beaten us up pretty good. Dan Hoard has called it all, including Bearcats. And, dude, you're the busiest dude, and other than Kenny Albert, who's my dude, you do as much as anybody. So I'm very grateful for you to spend a little time with me. Have you gotten all the snow off your hat and stuff from Buffalo on Sunday?
You know, Nestor, that's where I grew up. I'm a Western New Yorker. I grew up a little bit south of Buffalo. So for December, that was nice weather in Orchard Park. It wasn't bitterly cold. It was in the high 20s. So a little snow made for a cinematic view of the game. It was very enjoyable. And let me get back to WKRP for a moment.
Oh, shall
You
we?
and your wife watched an episode at Thanksgiving. I hope it was turkeys away.
It was not. She pulled it up and she said, pick one. And the one I picked was Dr. Johnny Fever won an award, and they all got jealous. And it was
What are we
It was a
doing?
1979 sitcom. It was just, but I own a little AM radio station, and all of the plot lines, including realizing that I'm Mr. Carlson. In my world. So that freaked me out for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, still,
Um,
if you're going to watch an episode of that show around Thanksgiving and you
I
don't
know
watch the
turkeys
famous
drop.
turkey
My
drop,
name's Nestor, for crying out loud. You think I haven't heard every Les Nessman Buckeye News Award winning joke? And I by the love
they
of God, I swear I thought they could fly, all
they are
that stuff. So,
falling like bags of wet cement.
dude, I
Oh,
love
the
you, man.
humanity.
It's just what happens when our teams aren't any good.
Yeah, I
Dan
guess
Hoard
so.
is here from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's the voice of the Bengals, has been for how many years? Brag on yourself.
15. 15.
Just 15.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just did the 25th anniversary with the Ravens Super Bowl team here. And listen, they brought him in to lubricate the crowd. Steelers were going to be in, and it was a big game. It was kind of a weird 1 o'clock game for being what it was in first place. And I mean, the Ravens are just falling short right now. And I don't look at the Bengals as having lost last week in the snow to Buffalo or being deficient in any way. I look at them as the team that came in here and was eating the turkey and the turducken on Thanksgiving night about a minute ago, right?
Yeah, with Joe Burrow back, Cincinnati is one of the better teams in the AFC. He lifts all boats, even the defense which has been historically bad for the most part this year, has played better since he came back. You certainly saw that on Thanksgiving night in Baltimore with all the fumbles and the one interception they had in that game. They're going to score on everybody that they play. The question is, can they hold the opponent to a reasonable number? Nestor, they've lost 7 times in the last 2 years where they scored 33 or more points. 7 times. Happened twice to the Ravens last year. That's hard to do.
Probably at like
They're
the 1965 Houston Oilers or the Buffalo Bills in the AFL,
crazy.
right? I mean,
Yeah, it's crazy.
that was kind of the scores they had back then.
Yeah. I mean,
Defenses
think
play
of
differently now. I mean,
a little bit better, but think of this. They have scored 33 or more 11 times in the last 2 years and won 4 of those games. 4-7 when they score 33 or more. That is almost impossible to do.
but it didn't look that way to me 2 weeks ago. And I know in the snow in Buffalo, by the way, whoever drew the lines in Buffalo, whatever warming thing they do there, you can actually see the lines. I'm appreciative of that. I'm sure the referees and the gamblers are as well. But that play was freaky, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that play happened in the middle of a timeout in my game, and I'm not red zone, and I'm with the Ravens, but there was a TV timeout, and I know what 3 minutes and 4 seconds looks like, and I went out, and like literally that play happened, and I'm like, That's just awful luck. And listen, I got a crush on Burrow. I mean, anybody that listens to the show knows. I think I just like his swagger. I think he's going to win. I think it's unfortunate he's been injured, Lamar, but I think that's the game in the sport, and I think that's where you play it. But right now, he feels like the healthiest quarterback in the division. I saw the other two guys this week.
Yeah, Burrow's the best. And that play last week, that's one of those plays where you just tip your cap to the opposition. Christian Benford, who's a possible Pro Bowler this year, he's been great for Buffalo. That's just an incredible play. He's coming on a corner blitz. Burrow's going to beat the blitz by throwing a screen to Jamar Chase. If he gets it to Jamar, he might have gone for a touchdown on that play because the Bills rather were, vacating that side of the field with the blitz. He goes to toss a lob essentially over Christian Benford. He times the leap perfectly, catches the ball like J.J. Watt used to do in his heyday, and takes off for a 63-yard touchdown that swings the game. So great play by Buffalo, not a bad play by Burrow, just one of those plays that happens. And unfortunately, right now, Joe Burrow just about has to be perfect. Great doesn't cut it when the defense is giving up as many points as Cincinnati's defense has given up.
After our game, Luke's working the game. I got my feet up in front of the television, texting with Mike Tomlin. He's blowing kisses, the whole deal. Fire Tomlin, fire Harbaugh. I went through all that last week. And I'm driving along, and in the post game, the young man on the air reported erroneously that the Bengals were eliminated. Bengals lost, they're eliminated. I'm like, hold on, 3, 4, 4, and 3, 4 games, three back. I'm like, they're not like. I would say hope is slim because win out, win it, but I don't. I look at the Ravens schedule. I'm wondering where the wins are coming from. I look at the Steelers schedule and I wonder where the wins are coming from. Somebody's going to win one of the last one. I know that, but they could certainly both lose a couple of games here, including the Ravens coming to Cincinnati, which is why I'm with you. This is not a throwaway game for either one of these teams in any way. And then there's the Steelers in Miami and their pathway, and the Ravens, New England, Green Bay. And everybody in the post game still after they lose to the Steelers saying, I still think the Ravens are going to win the division. I'm like, come tell Baltimore that, and tell Cincinnati they're eliminated because I don't think that's what Joe Burrow believes this week.
They are not mathematically eliminated. And honestly, Nestor, I wouldn't be surprised if Cincinnati goes 4-0. If they beat Baltimore, they've got Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland left.
That's the way my math worked.
Yeah.
My math worked like they got a way better chance of being 4-0.
Yeah.
And this is the big game. And this team stinks right now. This team's on a 2-game lose. I mean, there's nothing to recommend the Ravens running into Cincinnati this week other than Cincinnati's defense is leaky, right? I mean,
yeah, I just don't know if they're going to get enough help. I could see the Bengals going 4-0 with Burrow back, but are the Steelers going to lose 3 of their last 4? Sure, it's possible. I mean, a road game at Detroit is really hard. That finale against Baltimore will be hard, even though it's in Pittsburgh, but still, I don't see them going 1-3 the rest of the way, but it is possible. So yeah, there's still a fighting chance for Cincinnati to win the division at 8-9. It is possible.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Joe Burrow other than what I see on my little screen. I don't think I've ever been in a room with him in any way. Certainly haven't interacted with him in any way. What do you love about Joe Burrow, Dan Hoard?
He is very Tom Brady-like in that he is the most singularly focused person I have ever met in my life. There's only one thing that Joe Burrow cares about, and that is being the best quarterback in the world. Well, I guess 2 things, being the best quarterback in the world and winning a Super Bowl. That's it. That's all he thinks about 24/7, 365 days a year. The dude is laser focused on his job. So when you see him in the building at just about any minute of the working day, I mean, the dude is focused on what it takes to win in the NFL. There's very little frivolity with Joe Burrow. When you meet him, when you talk to him in the locker room, he wants to talk football. He's not interested in having reporters come up to him and shoot the what about, LSU or anything else that you would normally make small talk about with a player, talking about their former college or whatever, just to kind of, butter them up or try to develop some sort of relationship. Joe Burrow's not into that. He wants to focus on his job. He will be very polite with reporters. He will answer your questions about the game, but he's not interested in wasting any of his time doing something other than trying to be the best quarterback in the world.
Dan Hoard is our guest. He's the voice of the Cincinnati Bengals. The Ravens, obviously, this week in a must-win situation, as we would all say here, as we get our eggnog out here and I get the crab cake tour on the road. Um, the issue for me on the Bengals side, and I guess the 25th anniversary here last week, I ended my evening on Friday with Trent Dilfer, yucking it up, having a good time, Matt Stover, all these champions and stuff. And I think about how many things could have gone wrong in that year, and they won, and they got there, and they blasted the Giants in that particular Super Bowl, and then the Super Bowl run for Harbaugh the second time around, and how it took a miracle. I mean, literally, the Jacoby Jones thing, miracle. His brother blown a 3.5 touchdown lead, 4 plays at the 1 yard. I mean, crazy things that happen. I would say those last 8 minutes, as I sat in the upper deck at SoFi Stadium a handful of years ago and felt like, oh my God, the Bengals are going to win a Super Bowl. Poor Marvin. but I like literally I was in the building that night, and what transpires in those moments, and I think about you talking about the focus of Burrow and the fact that how much it drives you when you come that close, right? And some people take it away from the Bengals and act like they were never there or Burrow's never won a Super Bowl. I'm thinking Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and everybody in this fan base would have given a right arm to have been out in LA all that week, whooping it up, having a good time, going to the game and having a chance to beat the Rams at home. You guys experienced that, but it's one of those things like I bring it up, I almost feel bad because I was in the winner's circle last week on the 25th anniversary, and you're still trying to make that happen. I felt even worse with Marvin last week, right? But there is a point where that's the engine that fires everything around the franchise at this point. Where, and I'll be honest, when I see games in Cincinnati, it reminds me of the David Modell Ravens, where it's packed, it's all whited out, everybody believes in Joe. There is a thing that's happened since Burrow came to your town that's really rejuvenated the franchise in so many ways. And our guys came in here and saw people that didn't want to be at a Ravens Steelers game. Fever's high in Cincinnati, not just Dr. Johnny.
Yeah, that fever has been tempered a little bit over the last few years. This is likely to be the third straight year that the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs, which in the Burrow era is hard to stomach. Now, a major reason why has been his injuries. 3 years ago, he missed the last 7 games with the wrist injury that he suffered in a Thursday night game in Baltimore. This year, he'll miss 9 games with the turf toe injury, there we go, that he suffered before coming back against the Ravens on Thanksgiving night. So that's a major reason why they haven't made the playoffs consistently. But I will say this, the Cincinnati fan base does spell hope, Burroh. They do still believe that they will make it back to a Super Bowl and win it in the Joe Burrow era. I still believe that, but they've got work to do on defense. And really, Nestor, they should devote every resource they have in the offseason this year to try to at least get to the middle of the pack on defense, because that's really all it's going to take with this offense. And the good news is every important player on offense is signed for next year. Obviously, Jamar and T both got long extensions prior to this season. Chase Brown will be back. Mike Gesicki will be back. The offensive line will be back. And the offensive line has really started playing well, finally, for the first time in several years over the last 6 or 7 games this year. So the offense is set. No worries there. But they've got to find answers on every level of the defense. They have one defensive player this year who has played well, DJ Turner. That's it. 1 out of 11. Now, you could have said Trey Hendrickson before he got hurt, but he's not coming back this year. So, one good defensive player out of 11's not going to get the job done.
Well, we feel kind of the same way. Luke and I evaluated this after Pittsburgh, said, who's earning their money? Who's playing to their contract? Andrews, they gave a 3-year extension to last week, looked to be the guy that they were going to give that money to, and it didn't materialize. Eric, nobody's better putting AI into the machine and figuring out the contract situation for all of these guys into the spring and figuring out he wanted Mark Andrews. I'll tell you, man, you're on the outside looking in, but you watched this 2 weeks ago. You're looking at the film of the Steelers game, getting ready for the game this week. I sit here and talk about it all week. What do you see? Here we see this disappointment or the refs screwed us. There's all sorts of things you could see, but you can see a defense that consistently hasn't gotten it done. Was the worst defense in the league at the beginning of the year. Is a little better. No pass rush at all. You mentioned Hendricks and the Matabike thing here. It's just not been the same, and they've made 2 deals. Good deals, I guess. The young guys maybe are coming on, I guess, but they're 6-7, and Lamar hasn't been right. The offensive line is abysmal, and here we go. To Cincinnati, where everybody just expects the Ravens to win the next 4 games somehow, and like they're just going to turn it on because they see Henry and Hopkins going to the Hall of Fame. They see Roquan Smith and Marlon Humphrey and Ronnie Stanley and Mark Andrews going to the Hall of pretty good. And Lamar looks to be getting better, I guess, health wise. But I don't know how people bet on this, Dan. I'll say that as all the betting ads get run and all that. But I don't know where we are with the Ravens because their potential, it's wearing me out in week 14, bro.
I still think they're the best team in the AFC North. I'm one of
Here he
those
goes.
people.
Here he goes.
I'm one of those
Everybody
people.
says that, right?
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I am not buying the Steelers at all. I do think that the Ravens got screwed with some of those calls last week. That Isaiah Likely catch looks like a catch to me. I mean, whatever. I was shocked that Pittsburgh was able to go into Baltimore and win that game. More power to them. They seem to pull this off and, squeak their way into the playoffs year after year after year. But I will say this about the Ravens. To me, at least in the Thanksgiving night game, Lamar wasn't Lamar. He's still good. But if he doesn't have that threat and that willingness to take off and run for huge yards when it's there, which he didn't do on Thanksgiving night, it's not the same team. I mean, that's the separator. The Ravens still have a great running game. I think until Thanksgiving night, their defense had really been playing well for a 5 or 6 game stretch. I think they have more good defensive players than the other teams. Well, Cleveland would be the exception, but I think they've got more good defensive players than Pittsburgh and Cincinnati right now. But if Lamar's not willing to do the things that make him different, the things that make him an MVP, then that really removes the biggest separator that Baltimore has from these other great teams.
You expect the Bengals to win this week?
I do. I think they played really well last week in Buffalo. They lost what felt like a playoff game. And again, it turned on one incredible play by Christian Benford. I think Burrow is determined to end this season on a really positive note to give this team some momentum again going into the offseason as they try to fix the defense. So, yes, at home, having defeated this team by 18 points a week and a half ago, I do think that Cincinnati will win.
What would 4-0 mean here on the way out? Beating a couple bad teams on the way out, which is, hey, man, they add up. What would that mean?
It would mean that Joe Burrow would be 12-1 in his last 13 starts. He had won 8 in a row as a starter before losing in Buffalo a couple of days ago. So, if you go into the next season knowing that with this guy under center, you've won 12 out of your last 13 games, assuming that they are able to add some important pieces on defense, I think you would feel like you are right back into the mix as one of the AFC's best teams.
You just made a case for the Orioles and their feelings about their starting pitching with Kyle Bradish and Rogers. Dan Hoard is here from the Cincinnati Bengals, and I would just say this: these games that matter. And when you talk about Pittsburgh, you talk about Pittsburgh the way I do. Pittsburgh, and they sneak in and the ghost of the man's out to get us with the referees and Tomlin blowing. It is spooky how they never go away and how awful their defense is till it shows up in Baltimore needs to be. And, I was blown away that TJ Watt's never won a playoff game. And, the notion that Hayward, Watt, Ramsey, all that money they've spent there, Aaron Rodgers, that nobody takes them seriously. Yeah, I mean, like you've already said, nah, everybody, nah. Even when they beat the Ravens, nah. And even when the Ravens have a tougher schedule, and I'm thinking, this is really interesting to me, Dan, and it gets way more interesting if the Ravens lose in Cincinnati Sunday night.
Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff game in a decade, and the reason why is average quarterback play. Once you get to the playoffs, you're not going to have an extended run if you don't have somebody good at that position. Mason Rudolph started in the playoffs for them a couple of years ago. They've been trotting guys like, Duck Hodges out there in late season games. Since Ben Roethlisberger retired, they've just been churning through one mediocre quarterback after another, a past his prime Russell Wilson, a past his prime Aaron Rodgers. The defense and the coaching is good enough to keep them in the hunt in the regular season. It is not good enough to win postseason games, and that's what I expect. I think they are probably going to win the division because I don't see them losing three out of their last four, and they will lose an opening round playoff game at home to somebody.
Well, probably Buffalo at this point, and
Well, there
the
you go.
Buffalo thing. Hey, you were there on a snow globe game to end your Buffalonianness. So now that you've brought it up, and what town is yours? Are you
Uh,
somewhere down like Watertown, where like 10,000 maniacs, or where are you?
well, Watertown, I am from Jamestown, New York, which is where the 10,000 Maniacs
Ten
are
thousand
from.
man.
So you
Okay,
got
that's
that
it.
part
Okay,
right.
I got that part.
Watertown, on the other hand, is north of Syracuse. So that's middle
Oh,
of the
okay. I
state.
meant Jamestown. I
Yeah,
got that wrong.
Jamestown, more technically Lakewood is where I grew up, but it's a Jamestown adjacent little town. So yes, that's where I'm from, home of the 10,000 Maniacs, home of Lucille Ball, home of Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell and I were born in the same hospital.
How about that? He's in a different income bracket from what I can tell. Dan Hoard is here.
Slightly.
He's getting ready for football this weekend. The Bengals and the Ravens. You can always hear him on the Cincinnati Bengals radio network, and always a bright light for me. I'm wearing my Coco shirt, and I'm doing this on behalf of Marvin because that's his crab cake place in Baltimore. It's also my crab. I mean, I eat get crab cakes there on the regular. I'll be getting some ribs and some French fries there this weekend. But I wore this, but I miss the chili. I miss the trips. I miss sort of the Fountain Square. I miss thinking of WKRP. I even walked across that crazy bridge from Covington that 10 years ago. Freakiest thing I've ever done because I don't love heights and bridges. Like, I was white knuckling across the
Hmm.
bridge. It looked easier than it was, but I love your town. I really do. And I miss coming
Thank
in.
you. I love my town too. I didn't grow up here, obviously. We talked about Jamestown, but I have lived in Cincinnati longer than anywhere else I've ever lived in my life. So it's home now. We raised our son here. Great place to do that. So yeah, I love Cincinnati as well. You hit on some of the key highlights. I, like you, am not great with heights. So when I cross that bridge, I assume you're talking about the Purple People Bridge, which is strictly a pedestrian bridge in
I walked
Cincinnati.
across it with a backpack and laptops because I was working. I was going
Yeah.
to the game, and I stayed at whatever the Holiday Inn, whatever thing is. And it looks like downtown. I live. This is where I lived in Baltimore, so
Yeah.
I am a little weird about heights, but it was windy and it was like, oh, I took 3 steps across that bridge, and I swear to God, I almost turned back around. I'm like, I just need an Uber, and I'm like, I'm not going to sissy out on this. And I walked through it. I don't. These God bless the people who do the Bay Bridge run and the walk. Just driving over. I'm talking about the Maryland Bay Bridge now. Woo up there. This
Yeah.
is just a little dinky, inky, inky little thing. It didn't look nearly as intimidating, but I remember it is something dumb I won't be doing again, like going up in a hot air balloon or something. I ain't doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. When I walk across that bridge, I tend to stay as far away from the edge as I can. Now, because I share this slight fear of heights with you, I went skydiving once just to prove to myself that I could do it. And I did. And immediately afterward, I would have gone right back up and done it again. But with each day that's passed, my desire and willingness to do it again decreases a little bit. I can't see it happening, but I did it once. I'm proud of myself.
Closest I've ever come was the Indianapolis Super Bowl downtown. It was 70 degrees. It's beautiful there that week. And my wife saw the zip line, and we were going to do that thing. And I'm like, uh-uh. And I mean, bungee jumping, forget
Yeah,
that.
forget that.
Uh,
Forget that. Zip lining I've done. That's no big deal. I will never do bungee jumping because it seems too carnivalian to me. Like these operators sneak in the darkness of night. They erect their thing. People do it and then they get the heck out of town before the lawsuits arrive. So yeah, I am very anti bungee jump.
Yeah, I almost got killed crossing the street in Houston a couple of years ago. It's as close as I need to be to the front end of a Bronco. So, like, I'm not, I'm not a thrill seeker in that way.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of flying or anything. But the Cincinnati Bridge, when I think about it, I'm not staying in Covington without an Uber. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Dan Hoard is here. I do miss Cincinnati. We'll be watching the game this week, and always a pleasure to have you on and bring your knowledge, your deep knowledge of that. And I have deep knowledge of crab cake. So does Marvin. So we're doing a Maryland Crab Cake Tour. It's presented by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. We've had a lucky batch. I had a $20 winner a couple weeks ago, right on the air, and I scanned it. It was a lot of fun. That actually happened at Coco's. But next week we're going to be out doing some new places. We're going to be at Honey's this week. We're going to be at Gertrude's next Friday, and then the Planet Fitness in Timonium on the 22nd. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, from Cincinnati to here. Let's see, WNST in Baltimore. I got to come up with a new jingle. I'll work on that one. Stay with me. AI will figure that one.